marvelous fellows, all of them. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all sexualities, identities, and more. And welcome back to another Doctor Who review. And today I thought we needed to kind of tie back again. We need to kind of bring you all back down to earth. So where better to start than with some more unit? And who better to start it off than Brigadier Alistair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart himself? So yes, this is another unit box set, but this one has a little short, and then it has like 4 stories. Now the first little short, what we're going to talk about, called the unit The Coop, is Alistair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart has retired, and he's gone to a conference where he is being targeted by a organisation who wants to destroy unit completely, called ISIS. Now, ISIS intends to take over unit and basically become them. But to do so, first they want to give unit a bad image. So they have been trying to declare in this story that the unit soldiers have been attacking the underground Silurians, when in fact it's ISIS who have been doing this. Brigadier discovers this, and of course, to chuck it back in Isis's face and chuck it back in a certain woman's face, he waits for her to turn up to a press conference and shoot a Silurian in front of the press. By doing this, he now leaves them in the holding pen, and it causes them to want to hurt unit even more. Now, during the events of the coup, we are introduced to a Colonel Chaudhry, a lovely woman who is a really good associate of Brigadier, and she works for unit. All of a sudden, after the events of the coup and after the bad press release, unit finds themselves trying to transport an alien spaceship from one place to another, but the spaceship is attacked when a series of time dilation starts affecting the planet. First, the planet starts to slow. Second, they start to have problems where trains shut down, aircraft shut down, and it causes mass panic. Unit tries to do everything in their power to cover it up, but to make the situation worse, there's a scientist who is working for a secret organisation doing everything he can to understand the flow of time. In doing this, because he doesn't understand the linear effects of the problem, he starts to make the problem spread and get bigger and bigger and bigger. Chaudhry and her second-in-command officer go to investigate and have to shut the experiment down. By doing it, they ask why they are doing it, and all the man says is he was told to do it, and that it is all for the greater good. The next story we have is called Snakehead. We go to Southend, a place I've been a few times. So Southend, in this story, there is a Chinese gang who has brought immigrants over in order to pick up cockles. But all of a sudden, one day, one of the guys in charge of the cockle pickers gets a mysterious phone call from one of the Chinese men who have been on the beach. He says he's being attacked by something, but because the guy doesn't speak Mandarin who's on the phone, he doesn't quite understand what the guy's going on about. All he hears is screams and screams and screams. When unit goes to investigate, they find out that a bunch of foreigners have brought over a mysterious vampire who has been killing off the cockle pickers on the beach. They've been using it to impact the sales as rival gangs want to make profit for themselves. The problem is, because the vampire can't be seen, it makes it very challenging for unit, because they at first start to question whether or not it's a hoax. They then realise none of it's a hoax when they start seeing the vampire come for them and attack them. The sergeant manages to shoot the invisible vampire, disarming it and destroying it once and for all. The next story, The Long Night, is a very interesting story. It's a story that can relate to our own world in its current situation, especially as it shows a group of extremists taking over the world, all to get their point across because of their personal beliefs. The story starts off with one of Emily's friends who seems to be out for the night when a train gets blown up and the city fries into chaos. Half of London has become a gang war and is now under siege from an unknown organisation posting themselves as the police. People being shot down by who they believe to be police officers in the street. Emily and her friend rush back from Southend to London in order to try and help the situation, only to discover it was ISIS who has previously been a problem to them, has started taking over the city, all because they say it's for their people. They've been brainwashing people with some device and some rhetoric over the radio and some phone calls to certain public individuals in order to get the press to be concentrated on them. The press find themselves in a very sticky situation as they don't know what is real and what is fake. UNIT is also in the same sort of boat as they start to question how far is this going to go and what can they do to finally stop it. Emily and the sergeant get very close to the answers of what's going on, but as soon as they do, they find themselves in a rock and a hard place. Emily and her sergeant friend try to escape the clutch, and the sergeant decides to sacrifice himself so that Emily may survive, and that finally they may be able to beat ISIS once and for all. It's exposed in this story that one of the head of ISIS had an illegitimate daughter, and this was the reason for him being kicked out of UNIT and the government. The final story, The Wasting, starts with Emily grieving over the loss of her friend. She then starts to go headstrong into trying to bring down ISIS, as she knows that her only option now is to find out what their next move is. It turns out ISIS has used a plague to start infecting the masses, as they believe this will be a way to destroy the government and bring down the democracy. By doing this, they also believe that it will get rid of and eradicate anyone they do not like. Emily and the Brigadier team up as they are very determined to find a cure to this disease in the form of a rocket. It turns out that Harry Sullivan, teamed up with a bunch of Silurians, have come up with a cure to this disease, and the only way to cure the masses is to shoot a rocket into the stratosphere and let it explode. But there's another problem. As they get closer and closer, Emily finds herself reacquainted with an old sergeant, only to discover that he was never a part of UNIT properly in the first place. All the times her and her men sacrificed themselves for this man, only to find out that secretly, he was always a part of ISIS. This character was played by the brilliant David Tennant, of course, and it is pure gold, and I love the malice and the anger he brings to this character, especially the arrogance towards this whole idea of this character thinking that Emily's character was always in love with him. But yeah, so he tries to stop the rocket, and of course he fails. He's arrested, and ISIS is put down once and for all. Emily is promoted to a higher rank in UNIT, and when she gets this offer, she points out to Alistair that she would like him to be her scientific advisor, just like he had back in the old days. He says, "You'll never have someone as good as my scientific advisor. He was a rare one." Wasn't he just, Emily ends up saying, and of course the pair of them are obviously reminiscing over the Doctor in this instance. So what did I think of this UNIT spin-off series? I love it. Honestly, I do. not only because I like the idea of UNIT being under threat from another organization, but I also just love this idea of some down-to-earth UNIT stories that don't always involve aliens. In the last box set we done with Kate Stewart, it was very Daleks and ghosts and stuff that we've heard about in like Sarah Jane and Torchwood Adventures. But this was a little bit more minimalistic. Yes, you have vampires in this. Yes, you have a deadly disease. And yes, you do have the Silurians. But other than that, a lot of this was more down to earth problems, such as traffic control, um, politicians and governments being tested, countries being tested, the the exploitation of foreigners and people who work in a certain scenario and factor. And that's the thing I really liked about this unit series. Is I like that it tackled all these little problems, and especially the manipulation of the media, the way that a lot of them had been hypnotized, or the way that they had been pushed towards a certain demographic because it makes certain parties look better. And that whole idea, um, because it happens in our world and they're real matters, and sometimes in Doctor Who we go more into this narrative of this is what happens in their world, whereas in this one it's more very much more about this is what happens in our world, and these are little issues that or little or big issues, depending on how it scales out, on how things should be pushed forward. And one issue I really liked in this as well is I liked the pushing of um, them making a statement about racial hatred, especially in The Longest Night, because The Longest Night is so beautifully constructed about telling people about a very far right extremist group who will do anything. They will blow up stations, they will destroy buildings, they will attack civilians in the street with guns just to get their point across. And that's exactly what they do in this Longest Night. They even go as far to have a general kill herself on the news. These are brutal, hard truths. It's very dim. It's very, um, it's very bleak, and that's one thing in one area that not many stories are willing to go with. And the fact that it's so bleak, so dark as the story progresses, even the sacrifice is very dark in the story. It's brilliant, and for that reason, I give this unit spin off a 10 out of 10. No notes, absolutely brilliant.